It is really early in the morning or late at night, depending on how you do things. As you can see, I am frazzled, but then again, this is AuDHD Unmasking, and I'm about showing you what life can really be like for an AuDHD woman. That's the time, 2:43. I have been going through burnout, but I have been processing it quietly, which is not a good thing. I've been doing it for a few reasons. One, I can't afford to take time to take care of myself so that I can be well again. I said a few reasons, but I think that's the only one. Now, I mentioned about burnout in the previous episode. If you didn't go and watch it, please go and watch it, because it was one of those screenshot episodes, of which I will do more. This time around, not going to be doing much of that. I'm just going to be sharing a little bit of what I'm feeling. Burnout can look like, if I have the footage, I will share it here, but it can sound like this. It could sound very scary. For me, with burnout, I tend to pace, I make sounds, I hit my head, I scratch myself, and it's not because I want to hurt anything. It's because it's like there's too much energy and I can't direct it anywhere, or I don't know what to deal with it. I also have a issue with saying exactly how I'm feeling at the time, which I never knew was a thing until I looked it up, and it is this word here. I can't remember.
Alexophobia.
Hey, back in the day when I was a child and when I was a young person and a young adult, that lasted for a long time. I would have some sort of seizure. I had a scan of my head done at some point, and they said it lit up. If a lot was going on, I didn't get any diagnosis for anything. I was only told
you need to decide if you're going to go and get therapy.
But I didn't want to do that because where my heritage is from, Barbados, where I lived, and in the Caribbean in general, it was very much of a stigma to talk about or engage with or anything regarding mental health or being a bit different. I can't hold this arm is giving problems. That's a whole other story. So therefore, I wouldn't. And it wasn't because before then I wasn't sent I was sent to see some psychiatrist or something. As far as I know, I didn't see the person for long. All I remember, because I was a child, is that the person was nice. But yeah, I don't remember anything else. But when I was younger, my meltdowns, my burnouts, I don't know, I'm very emotional today. Oh, by the way, I am going to ramble. I'm sorry, but I will get to the point. But I was looking at ChatGPT recently because I was going through things and just erasing things, because I'm actually at that stage where I just feel like getting rid of so many things, and I will get into that hopefully if I remember. And I came upon 3 years ago, I was unofficially diagnosed with autism, and I didn't even remember that. So I'm glad I came upon that information. I saved that chat because I was researching it more and things like that, as I do. Then officially, I got my diagnosis late last year, in October last year, October 17th, to be specific. Very important day for me. And thankfully, at the end of this month, I'll be assessed for ADHD. But all of that rambling was to go back and say that I had really bad times with meltdowns and burnouts and things. Lots of screaming, blacking out, going into these fits. More often than not, I would not remember what has happened. And being surrounded by an abusive situation as well didn't help. I used to get beaten a lot for all sorts of reasons that I didn't even understand. I couldn't even understand why I would be hit. I was hit on my head, hit with all sorts of things. I was traumatized verbally. My grandfather was taller than me and more menacing. So that would be an ongoing thing, towering over me while I was hunched in a corner, being terrified of saying anything and being taught by my grandmother not to say anything. Because if I said or did anything, it would agitate my grandfather. What is so funny is that it's only in my later years that, and especially after getting an unofficial diagnosis for autism at the time, I started thinking about my family. I sure think that my mother is autistic, with how she's always been, and now that she has dementia is even worse. So who knows? But then I think about my grandfather, and I think he was as well. And as an aside, because it's not mental health, autism isn't mental health, that's a neurological thing. But as an aside, we've had so many mental health situations in that side of the family with bipolar and all of that. And I'm sure my grandfather had depression and PTSD from the war and all that. And then my grandmother was interesting. I really do think, because of things that she did, she was a bit psychotic, to say the least. So funny how you realize things after the fact. But all of that is to come right back forward to a point where I had learned to numb down all the energy that I feel inside from meltdowns. I have learned to mask so well. When I sit down, I think of all that I had gone through, not knowing what was going on with me, not having a diagnosis from any doctors, being born into a medical family, for them to not be able to tell me anything, either because the research wasn't what it was back in the day. Then to come forward and have to live according to the world, based on no information, and then having to numb myself down so much to a point where I come back to where I was born, needing to fit in, needing to work, needing to try to make money to help my family, unsuccessfully doing so, mind you, because I've always been successful with trying to do things, not knowing why, knowing that I have some sort of brain, but for some reason I can't function, not knowing that information and the why, and then coming over here and doing all the things, actually maintaining a job, but I struggle a lot. I do so because it's intense masking, because I need to fit into the world. I need to not be billed as an outcast, because seeing how the world works over here, I may be cast one side and then my family may not even know where I am. I may get lost in the system. All sorts of things run through my head, and then I have what I would class as supermasked for at least 10 years. I have had my meltdowns. I tend to melt down more at home, and even those are quiet in the grand scheme of things, which means that I've scratched more. I do the silent things more, hit my head more. There are times I wish I could just scream and pound, and it's like something to get it out, because I can't get out whatever, but I can't. But at least now I know the way. And therefore I supermask. I even supermask my meltdowns. Thus now I'm in burnout. Now, what would happen with me before when I was in burnout? I would follow my doctor's advice and be signed off, so that at least my body could have a chance to recuperate. I can't do that anymore. And this is what sometimes people may not understand. Sometimes those of us who are going through not only other chronic illnesses or other hidden disabilities, but those of us who have neurodivergent abilities, I like that. I like how that sounds. We can get ostracized, and it may not be deliberate, but instead of folks seeing our capabilities through our lens, or trying to at least, even if they're unable to do so directly because they may not be, they try to put us into the playpen of how the world thinks, and it instead makes us feel lesser than. It makes us feel as if we're not capable, when we know that in a sense we are. It's just that we don't do things according to how everyone else may, or other people may. And I've said this before, we end up being punished for who we are. And I know a lot of people who talk about this. You can't, literally cannot afford to be unwell. If not, you may not work. You may not be able to function. You may not be able to, well, function according to the world. You may not be able to pay your bills. You may not be able to buy food. Your family is elsewhere. You may not be able to see your family or they see you. Any dreams that you had thought that you could be working on, even if slowly, would come to a halt. When you have things like my background or my age or my other hidden disabilities to contend with, you may not even get work again. You may be a person that because you have a lot of complications or comorbidities or different things, you can't do more than one thing at a time. There was a time I could, but I can't do that anymore. And we worry. I worry. So yeah, I'm here at now 2:59 in the morning. My shadow. And I am emotional. I'm talking to you. I was just watching some videos that were all about community and people just giving each other things in different places in the world that you would never think that people would. And it made me a bit emotional. But that wasn't the only thing that made me emotional. What made me emotional is that I'm not well. I'm not well because I'm burnt out, but I still have to press on. And sometimes it's very hard to cope, but for some strange reason, people like us, we pseudo-cope. We don't like inauthenticity. We don't like not being ourselves or not saying what we have to say or smiling when we don't feel like smiling or we don't like any of that, but we have to. I've been thinking, is something wrong with the rest of the world? And it's just that we all have it flipped on its head. Because surely you shouldn't live out your life being fake. That's a whole other story. There was something I was going to get back to, and I can't remember what it is. Getting rid of things. That is what I needed to get back to. Yeah, good. Because I had to stop and actually listen to see what it is that I had to say. But anyway, I was going through ChatGPT and I had been deleting a lot. Now, this is something that happens with me when I'm not doing too well. I remember the burnout that I had. I think it was towards the end of lockdown with the pandemic and all that sort of thing. I had locks back then. I mean, well, obviously I have locks now, but I had my locks for 8 years at that point. And it was about the same length that these are now, or possibly a little longer. And I got so frustrated with my own hair and I started cutting it. No joke, myself. And tried unpicking it. And I told someone that I knew at the time, when you get a chance, could you please come and help me cut off my locks and just cut off all my hair? That's not the first time I'd done that. I have very dramatic burnouts sometimes that manifest like that. But that one was meltdown into burnout because I was actually my hair, I wanted to just pull my hair out. I don't want to do that now. But I have been in the thing of deleting things. I am struggling with enjoying what I normally do, like researching and recording and all of that. I am now getting this emotional thing. I am unsubscribing from things because I can't cope. I'm very thankful that my doctors get it. My therapist, my psychiatrist, and my GP, they all get it. And they really empathize. They really keep close to me because they know what I'm going through. They know I even get ideation. I've had this for quite some time now on a stretch. They know where it's all coming from. because thankfully it's not the depression is not the anxiety or anything. It's coming from the consistent masking and being hemmed in and being made to pretend in my life so much that I can't. My body literally is not taking it. My brain is not taking it. But yeah, I'm in that mode of all of this with just trying to get rid of everything. I just can't take anything. But before I go, one thing that I did recently, is have a procedure on my arm. I don't know. You may be able to see or not able to see a mark. But I had a procedure recently on my arm because I have osteoarthritis, the complicated thing. So this is what it is. I had a very nice doctor who did the procedure with my arm, stuck a needle in it under ultrasound and all that sort of thing. But anyway, and we came to the point where I was in pain from the medication going into my arm. And he said I dealt with it so well, which normally doctors do say. Thankfully, before then, he realized that my heritage is from the Caribbean. And I did tell him that Bajans tend to be pretty resilient. We don't bear our pain on our shoulder. And we've been taught that. And I really got a lot of that because people don't seem to believe me when I say I'm not great. Either that or something else that I've discovered is that certain peoples could be going through the exact same thing and are treated in a different way. Unfortunately, that's unconscious. However, personally for me, I'm not believed. So therefore, I would say, oh, this and that is happening. I'm going through this and that. And people would know, but I don't really show it. And I persevere anyway. Because someone of my nature, those of us who are neurodivergent, we do that too. It is very hard. Burnout, especially like this, is strange. Let me know if you're going through this. Let me know if you've felt this. Let me know if you've gone through it and come to the end. Yeah, this is not the best thing in life. But I'll talk to you in the next episode.